Kevin, are you the one helping us tonight?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Hey,
great.
Kevin, how are you?
Okay.
Good. Do you guys need anything before we begin?
No.
I think
Okay.
so. I'm going to be back in a second. I'm just doing a little cleaning up of my desk here, so I'm a little more organized. Let me
Okay.
see. Nice.
Kevin, Kevin, why don't you give the instructions?
Sure. Welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us virtually, you'll notice that you're currently muted, and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except for Ed and Sherry. As we move through the agenda, Ed and Sherry will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the react icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button, not the wave or thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in on the phone, it is *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. They will not see the chats. If you are using an older version of Zoom, you need to go to the participants section where you will find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, why don't we start? Um, the one thing that Ed and I want to share is that now we have two commissions that are operating. We've been working to get ready for the April 23rd public hearing in Manhattan. And that's the mayor's charter change commission. And now the city council has their own charter change commissions, and theirs is called the New York City Commission to Strengthen Local Democracy. It's certainly a very
Right.
fancy name.
Right.
And they will be having hearings.
They've had here.
Starting, and
They've had five. They've had
yeah,
five. We're having another five.
and then the hearing in Manhattan is on May 19th. So it's Ed and my intention to, I started working on the resolution, and we have to, as I was looking it over, everything is practically negative. So Ed feels we kind of need to change things and have more of a positive attitude. So what I'd like to do, we have to get this ready to prepare resolution to be voted on by the board next Wednesday. So we have to really finalize this.
Well, can I jump in for a quick second, Sherry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Not all that is true, but I would like to just say that before we feel we have to rush, I have a little different view. There's,
Well,
I mean, yes, we have to have something. We should have something, but just to be clear about the lay of the land, we have two competing commissions that have proposed nothing. They've proposed nothing, zero, not one proposal, either one of them. The only
right.
thing on the website for the mayor is testimony for the first couple of meetings. That's it. So it seems, again, just one person's opinion of viewing it, is that these are two commissions battling it out for just saying we're here and to watch each other. And so as Sherry and I were talking today, again, we cannot stress enough, begging, pleading. It is like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, in our opinion. You can have whatever you want. You are not bound by anything. They put these labels on there, but they are wide open. The testimony is everywhere, all over the map. And so all we're saying, Sherry and I are, is that yes, we have to have something. I agree. But these meetings are continuing to go on. They both compete. Sherry and I both we've talked about this. The mayor's commission wins. Okay, he wins. But if he doesn't propose anything, the city council wins. So we have talked, Sherry and I have, we should have something ready. but we've also talked this afternoon, we should prepare for later in the year.
Right.
These
Yeah,
folks
once
will
they
prepare
issue
something.
once they issue a report, then we'll respond to that. So at the moment, we're just shooting. We have no idea what they're going to propose. Michelle, Kevin, unmute
Yeah.
Michelle, please. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you. Two things. Firstly, Sherry, you said you were trying to draw a resolution. Is it my understanding, or at least that's what I sort of came away with from our last meeting, is we have a general consensus that because the field is wide open, that we should be advocating for ourselves.
Yeah.
So my feeling is that we should have one, two, more than two, resolutions that have to do with empowering communities, community boards, giving us access. I'm throwing just out ideas, giving us access to city planners from the borough president's office, which Scott had when he was borough president. It was a very good thing. Have community-based planning as opposed to all of the rezoning that has been put upon us, enforcing us into planning that changed the zoning, et cetera, et cetera. We'll have to work out the wording, but it can be one big resolution. It can be many resolutions on individual points. But is that a consensus that I feel that we have, or am I misguided? And
Well,
also, Sherry, if you can clarify what you meant when you said you were starting to write a resolution.
yeah, that's what I did. I took all the points that were raised at the last meeting. First thing I did, I got a copy of the resolution that the board had passed in 2019, just for format. And then I started putting together, I did one resolution with two parts, which we can certainly change. I think it's just easier than having to make copies and send them wherever. I have one section called community boards where we talk about all the things we want. And then I have a second section called development, which we can change. So I just started, since I'm going to have the job of putting it together before next week, I wanted to just, put something on paper.
So great. So what are the points that you have in the
All right, well,
community board? Let's start with that.
Does anybody, before we start this, do we have anybody? I know Ed has a great suggestion. As I go through them, why doesn't people, if they have different wording, which Ed and I think we have to change some of this wording to make it more positive as opposed to everything is negative. Right. So the first one was under community boards. Decisions of the community board should be given more weight than merely advisory. That was one of the things we talked about. All right. And then the second was about dealing with term limits. We're asking that they eliminate the term limits that were established in the 2020 charter revision. And then I put in a comment that if this takes effect, that we will find that the community boards will be made up of all new members, and those more experienced will be eliminated, and we'll lose all institutional knowledge on the community boards as the argument to get rid of that, the term limit. And then Ed had a wonderful suggestion. Ed, why don't you talk about that?
Right. So again, this is under the rubric of, whatever is on your mind. We put it out there to them. So we have term limits that have been created a few years ago. We're coming up on those now. It's probably going to wipe out about 65% of Community Board 8 in about 2 years. So I thought to have some level of institutional knowledge, which will disappear tremendously, that we put something in the charter requiring every borough president to establish some type of archival or institutional memory device, mechanism, office, whatever it may be, and impose upon the community boards to begin assembling some kind of archive of what's been going on, so that there's some establishing some kind of institutional memory for these community boards as they move forward. I know in ours, Michelle, you remember, I know when we were at Nightingale, I can still remember 530 Park Avenue. Remember that? And you remember the first time we had
2006.
right. Remember the first time we were over in the church and we were in the basement and then we were over at Nightingale. And if you had not been in the first row, I can still remember this. We were over there at Nightingale. You raised your hand. We had a lot of new members on the board. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Christian Scientist Church on Park Avenue is an event space. No one has a problem with that's fine, but there's a liquor license issue that has been ongoing. Community board was against it. It's very contentious. Point is, we voted it down. It came right back with a lot of people, a lot of money behind the issue. They came back 10, 12 years later, was it, Michelle, something like that, 8 years, whatever it was. Point is that if we had not had people on the board who remembered the first go round, more likely than not, this would have gone forward. My point is not whether it's going up or down. The point is that people who had heard about the issue and the history of it, it affected how they voted, is the point. And so that's why I raised the suggestion that we need to have this kind of institutional memory. Look, people can just say, yeah, well, that's a bad memory. We need to forget that anyway. But my point is, you're going to lose a lot of knowledge. And for those who've served on community boards, I'll tell you, it's amazing what you don't know. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And I realized that when I joined this board, and I have a graduate degree in public administration and an attorney, and know so little compared to people who've been on this board. So we could go on and on, but that was the reason why I brought that up. Maybe we put that as a resolution for us to consider.
I see I'm unmuted, so
No, you're muted, but I was going to let Erica speak.
Yes.
okay.
Erica?
Thanks, Sherry. I do think that there should be term limits, and I voted for it. I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't be allowed to run again, but consecutively, seeing people who have been on the board for 20, 30 years, we need new blood and things change. I mean, and that's what the extensive minutes and recordings and everything are for. I mean, I applaud the fact that there are such copious minutes and everything is recorded and is held on the website for years. But there definitely needs to be new blood. I mean, the amount of the like dug in heels that I've seen in the last 4 years since I've been involved with the community board is quite interesting, but it also dovetails back to the fact that I also haven't seen, when it comes to the really big important things, the city take into account what the community boards think. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. It should be more than advisory. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, these are our neighborhoods, and everything from the New York Blood Center to Lenox Hill. I know Lenox Hill has been rubber stamped. I mean, I know that's going to go forward.
Yeah.
So I think that they both obviously correlate to one another, but I think that I would more so focus on the more weight being given and it not being a advisory, because I think that both of those things undercut one another because the public actually voted on term limits. That was on the ballot.
The way it was presented, yes.
And it makes sense. There's a reason why we're seeing what we're seeing in the larger government.
But Community Board 8 is quite unique, that our people hang on. Many of the other community boards in the outer boroughs have trouble getting people to come on the community board. So that's another consideration.
Well, I lived in CB7 for 10 years before I moved to the Upper East Side. And
Yeah.
I just think it's
On the
it's
west
just,
side?
yeah,
Oh,
it's just a different, the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side are just different.
Sure, that's why
I was just about to say, Erica, of the 59 community boards in the 5 boroughs, you picked the two out of 59. What's that show with the briefcases? You picked the 2 that probably have the deep. I mean, the West Side has the highest voter turnout. Meryl Brodsky's up next. She'll tell you they have the highest. I mean, forget
And
it.
it has to do, we all know
and
it
Park
has to
Slope.
do
And
with
Park Slope.
educational and socioeconomics.
But also in Brooklyn, you'd be surprised. You know, the issue Sherry raised on the community boards. You know, I have clients in the Bronx who tell me they're on the community board. They only have 35 people. They barely have enough. They have 35 in the Bronx.
We all know that Brooklyn is a
But-
mess
but
in many
Brooklyn-
ways.
But Brooklyn has. But I've heard tale of Brooklyn with these community boards in South Brooklyn, borderline in Queens. The members are on the board. To your point, Erica, they're on these boards 30, 40 years and not a shot. You
it's
can't get on.
insane.
I mean, Community Board 8, to your point, I understand, but I will tell you, look, I'm not here to advocate one way or the other on term limits, but I will say on this board in the last 15 years, to your point, when I got on, you're lucky to get on your first time, but we have had larger classes, 6, 7, 8 people every year now since I've been on. But
At my
that's
first
fine.
time, I was rejected because they wanted more minority representation. I'm a woman
right. It's not.
with a disability. Okay, so it's a little bit of let's
I get it.
it's a little
I
bit
get
of a popularity contest to some degree too. So let's not,
Hey, it's just Ed Hartzog, not borough president under my name.
But now that
that's
I've been involved for over 4 years and I'm involved with 72nd Neighborhood Association as well, I'm not applying a 4th time.
good Lord.
All
Forget
right.
it.
Meryl,
Meryl.
Kevin.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you though, Meryl. It'd be nice to see you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm indisposed. Anyway, I thoroughly agree that there should not be term limits. However, in fairness to Erica Burson, I think that there could be other things to do. I think perhaps we could expand the number of public members, because I think members are a great adjunct to any community board. Advisory powers have to be defined. That's a kind of a digression, but I'm in full support of having volunteers volunteer and stay on, and you can't stop people from doing that. After all, people who have been here for 15 years or more and dedicated and put in half their lives to the community board and are getting all these big bucks shouldn't be just thrown to the wind and so on and so forth. They should be allowed to hang in there. So there got to be other ways to do it. That's what charter reform is about. And while we're at it, I think advisory has to be more clearly defined. I think it's great to expand our powers. Shall we have more control over Euler? Right away, people maybe should be going into Euler. So things like that we can kind of think about.
What do you think,
Thank
Meryl?
you.
We're open for ideas. We'd love to hear your idea on that. What do you think?
Well, I think pretty much what I said, we should expand Euler. It's our
In what way?
last bastion of community input. So I think we need to do something like that. And I will, write it up or come to the next meeting and think about it. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Michelle? Kevin, why don't you just leave Michelle unmuted? It'll just be easier for you.
Okay, that's fine. I'll be quiet when I'm not called on. I think of the 2 points that you made, Sherry, the thing is I would not put them in one resolution. I would like to see multiple resolutions that can actually, excuse me, be voted on as a pure issue as opposed to having multiple in one resolution, and then you never really know which is the one that got the whole thing voted down. You know what I mean? If it's term limits, I'd like to see just a resolution on term limits. If it's on community board input, I would like to see a specific, like if we say we want a commitment to have our voices count in a vote. Ed would know better how to phrase this. But when you're taking a vote during the ULURP process, or if the board comes up with a vote, that it has to have an impact. It's not enough to just be more than advisory, because you have to advise them on how you want to be treated. Do you want to be 1/5 of a vote because a city planner is going to have a vote? You know, 2 people from the mayor's office, the borough president. In other words, there'll be a list of people who have votes. And I think we need to define what percentage of that vote we want our community board to be, our resolution to be. But I would like to see a series of individual resolutions, and including for the borough president, that the borough president's office has to provide community boards with the advice of a city planner. That was so wonderful when Scott did it. It was terrific. There was somebody that he hired down at the borough's office. And if we were working on rezoning, on a text amendment, on whatever, we actually called that person who came to our meeting and advised us on how we do it, how we can do it legally, what's the process. Very helpful. What wording
No, I think
would
it's
work.
good. I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah, but okay, so a city planner would be one resolution. If the majority of our board, with due respect to Erica and anybody else who's not who is for term limits, it doesn't prevent, if it's a majority of this committee, for us coming out with a separate resolution in favor, opposed to term limits, because then if it passes this committee and then it passes the board, it passes the board. If it fails, it fails. So it doesn't mean that the subject has to be off the table. But I suggest at this meeting that we come up with a bunch of little things that we think would make ULURP better, would make even with 197A, that exists, so I don't know how you'd work that into the charter, but to give help to a community board if they want to have a 197A plan, and just come up with a bunch of things that we think help community-based planning. So that would be my suggestion. So those were the couple that I suggested. Others come up with others. I mean, let's think. And then we can get to the development part. Because Sherry, that will ultimately, whatever happens in development, will ultimately be handled by whatever legal structure we have after the Charter Commission does its work. By whatever power they give us, that's how we'll know how we can handle development. So anyway, those are my thoughts for the moment. I'm sure others will pop in to my mind.
Anybody else want to comment on Kevin? What do you think about having the individual resolutions? Is that putting a burden on the office? Or what are you thinking? What do you think of Michelle's idea of having just one topic on each resolution?
Well, we'll write it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a problem for the office.
Yeah.
It's going to go to whomever it goes to. It's not.
Right.
Well, but if you're talking about having 3 or 4.
That's okay.
I mean,
Okay.
other
can always
committees have
combine,
resolutions that can be 2 pages. I don't think that's,
Yeah, I mean,
now, the one thing maybe we want to, do we want to, we have the mayor's commission and the
Yeah, the
council
other,
commission.
yeah.
that's,
We can submit the duplicate to them. We want,
Oh, we're definitely going to do
Yeah.
that.
you can.
Yeah, definitely going to do that.
And I put in the chat both the links to both commissions. The city council one, the meetings coming up are couched under the terms of, I think it is, what is it, government.
New York City Commission to Strengthen Local Democracy.
Right.
And the next
But
hearing is coming up on April 29th.
right,
with
and
that
the
name, they'd
city,
be
yeah.
hard pressed not to
Well,
give more power to the community boards
well,
with the name that they gave
right,
themselves.
but well, just to let you know, the one I'm looking, I got because I signed up for the emails. The Queens meeting on the 29th is on budget transparency. In Brooklyn on May 6th, it's on government accountability. Back on Staten Island on the 14th for budget transparency. Manhattan, it is government accountability. But in the Bronx, where it's to be announced, the hearing is on land use. So as you can see, you can sign up for Zoom on all those. But those are the topics that they'll be addressing supposedly. And again, like I said, I've watched a few of these, and it doesn't seem as if just because they say whatever budget transparency, someone can get right up and talk about the ULURP process. I mean, it doesn't preclude you. They don't shut you down or anything like that.
Well, are they doing it as an informational session, like on this?
No, this is they're getting this is their
This is feedback.
government. This
Okay.
is the input into what they're going to propose. This
Okay.
is why. I mean, I'm not against us coming up with a resolution, but I'll just be straight up. I'm a little squishy on it personally because I feel as if we're
They're
playing
not-
some kind of negotiation game with both of
Wait,
them.
Alita, what happened with the last, when you were in charge of the last one that we did? Did you
Right.
feel that they actually even bothered to listen, or
No.
is this a,
I don't think they bothered to listen. I think they have to have these. I think, and excuse me for being off camera, long day at work. I think that they have to do it. We've seen that with some city agencies, but I don't think they're really all
Yeah.
that concerned. I think there's an agenda that they have, and
that the mayor gave? Well, yeah. The
if
first,
you support the agenda, maybe they listen. If you don't, I don't think it's very democratic.
Alita did. I'm sorry.
By the way they promote it and the way they push for it.
Alita, didn't they have a proposal with the last one? Didn't they come out of the box with a couple of ideas on the last
Yes,
one? I thought they did.
they
that we
did.
responded to, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I misremembering that, or they did? Right?
Yeah.
What do you mean, Ed?
They had they formed it because, which I think is the way the process was meant to run, frankly, is that they set this up so that if government's going along and they go, we're having a problem with XYZ, we need to change this. This is a great mechanism to do it. We want to do X, we want to do this. We want the public's input. We want to change the charter.
My
And we have a
recollection
commission.
My recollection is that both last time with de Blasio and last year, and this year, that the city council wanted a charter commission to address certain issues, but the mayor
Yeah.
didn't like that. So the mayor has
Right.
priority
Well,
to
so-
theirs first.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing last year. And this year, the mayor doesn't get to do it to the exclusion of the council, but they're both doing it. And the mayor, again, is with land use and consolidating power. I think that's all the input I have, but with the real problem that I think there is that they put out these proposals and we have very limited ability to fight them if they're not of interest to the board or the board is opposed, because we are not allowed to be political. And Gail Brewer sought the advice of, I think I mentioned this already, the lawyer to her office who said that she's not allowed to be political and we're not allowed either. So we had educational programs presenting both sides, while at the same time, the mayor and the city council members were able to campaign for whatever proposals they wanted. And that really hindered us because, as usual, they write it in a way that you can't imagine why you would say no. And so therefore, it really is a hindrance to whatever the board opposes.
Right. Who we got? Hi, Judy. Good to see you. Erica.
I mean, in my experience, because I remember I was involved last year with Lolita, and in my experience, so the city council is able to do it, but then if the mayor decides to do it, that takes precedence over the city council. So what it becomes is a big pissing match where the citizens of the city get stuck in the middle, like every other issue. So I don't frankly understand this. But my question is for people who have been involved in the city charter is, and I'm not trying to say this to be provocative or necessarily even get an answer, but why do we not have a mechanism for recall?
We could. California has a recall.
This is bigger this is more, to me, that's
ask,
more important
ask
than
Gray Davis,
what we're
ask
talking
Arnold,
about right now.
ask Arnold Schwarzenegger, ask Gray Davis. You could propose it. People have talked about it, Erica. I can tell you that it has been floated. By the way, there's also a proposal out there that I am also adamantly against, floated by Citizens Union, that I think is not really as democratic as it's proposed, which is to move all the elections into even numbered years. That would move this.
I do think in New York we'd get a bigger turnout if we did that.
Yeah. Here's the thing though with that, is that in my opinion, when you do that, everybody running down at the city council level, you don't know anything about them, because the entire food chain will be absorbed with the top of the ticket. So that means governor, that means president, that means mayor, that means all of the top headline offices, and all the ones who do all the work that really affect us at the local level. No one knows anything about them because
they're still doing whatever they want to do.
And the dollar amount for the ad space in New York City for that many races being run at that time will make running for office that much higher. So
no, I totally feel you, but I don't think
no guarantee people will turn out.
I don't think that I'm not of the mindset that things shouldn't be done because they're hard to do. I'm of the mindset that things should be done because they're right to do. But I think that is a bigger issue because, I mean, when I asked somebody when de Blasio was mayor, their opinion on, and I might have done it in a CB8 board meeting, who the last good mayor of New York City was, and it was John Lindsay in 1973, and even he had problems.
Ask Albert Shanker. Yeah. Ask Albert Shanker his opinion on that.
And even he had issues.
Oh, okay. Everything's an opinion. I agree with Ed on this. I wouldn't want to change that whole voting thing. I don't think it's a bad idea if we want to write something that talks about the ability to recall. We can propose it. And I just wanted to affirm that I remember it as Alita remembers it. The panels and the meetings that we went to, there were already proposed resolutions, and the people on the panel, there would be 3 on each side, and they would advocate or speak against, in an effort were not supposed to be attempting to persuade. And it's true that when we as a community board wanted to do forums or outreach, we had to make a special point of not voicing an opinion. We also asked speakers to come that would speak for or against an issue. So I don't know if this is going to take the same format, but I still think that we can ask for what we want to ask for. We can. And then, we have to try to get them to listen to us as best we can. Is there any way to undo ranked choice voting?
You can ask for that too. This is what I'm saying, Michelle, to everyone here.
I would like to ask for that. That would be one of my many things.
Put Erica's in. I'm for Erica. I'm for a recall. Put recall in. Put more. Look, there's another one, Erica. By the way, I heard one. They want to make term limits 4 years long. How about one term? I mean, I'm not kidding. It sounds like I'm being snarky, but I'm not. I'm begging. I'm pleading. Many ideas. This is the only way to force the issue. To Michelle's point, is put all these ideas out there. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm not trying to advocate for any of them. I'm just putting them out there because why not? I mean,
right. I think if
they're
we
giving
have
us the oppor-
consensus, we should. And it
You'll
should
never
be
have-
in individual ones so that they can advocate for or against. And also, if they're individual resolutions on a single topic, it will make it that much easier to get a vote, either yay or nay, to get a vote from the board. If you start to complicate it with many things within a resolution, somebody will say it's fine with them if you take this out. It'll be okay with somebody else if you put this in. But if you have clean ones, we're for this, we're against this, we want this, I think that would work. And I think tonight we should come up with about 6 of them if we can.
Okay. Like I said,
Sherry, are you keeping a running list?
Yeah, what was the last one you just said? The last thing I was distracted.
Undo
Oh,
ranked choice.
ranked choice voting. Yeah, that's it.
Undo it. And as Ed said, to keep. Well, this is a negative. I mean, if there's anything out there that's proposing changing election days so that they're all on even years, but we would ask that we keep it the same. You know, I mean, I don't know how that would be worded.
Here's one for you, Michelle. That would I don't know. I just saw it for a second. I was thinking about ranked choice voting and the way they used to do primaries, which is you'd have a runoff if you got to 40, if no one got to 40%, is so you could propose something that would be some kind of hybrid. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. I've been so busy last week with ballot stuff, but you could propose something to go back to the way it was or not, sort of something new.
Well, there was no harm
for a
to the way
runoff.
it is.
That way you'd have a run.
This was like, if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. I mean, I don't think it was a particular burden to cast a vote. I mean, once and not rank. The confusion came with all the ranking. Everybody had 50 questions.
Right.
But anyway, certainly a city planner, you've got that one.
Yeah.
And community-based planning, and then to define what community-based planning is and the rights of a community board.
Sure.
Judy Schneider.
Yeah, Judy, we haven't heard from Judy.
Well, mine would be take term limits off of community board members.
We had said that before you came
I'm
on.
sorry, I had a family emergency.
That's okay. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's
Had to
it's on
go
the
to the
list.
hospital.
yeah.
So
We can definitely do that.
We've been on all over the map on that one, Judy. And I don't know if you were here before the idea I was saying, which is to your point, if this is to Erica's point, is that in a way, is that if we're going to have these term limits, then I think we should have these institutional knowledge. I know that in other organizations it helps when you take over as say, president of the Bar Association, or you take over in whatever organization you do. It's nice to have something that the previous people have done, the file, the briefcase, whatever it is. So what I was suggesting is that we have a resolution that every borough president has to have an office created to create some kind of institutional knowledge, however they want to call that, Judy, which is,
but institutional knowledge is different at every community board.
Well,
we talk to other board district managers and other boards, and I have friends on other boards, and lots of times I have a friend from the West Side will call me and say, how do you do this or that or whatever, and we're just so totally different than what they do over there. So the institutional memory would be totally different for that board than it would be for our board.
No question, but I think the mechanism is what I'm driving at,
Yeah.
not necessarily the knowledge, but a mechanism. Look, we were just talking about this, Judy. You've been on our board longer. And I was saying, and I
No,
couldn't
Judy,
believe this, that in the Bronx, some of these boards, they have like only 35 people on the board. You can have 50. They only have 35. And I said to him, I said, how come you only have 35? He goes, no one applies.
yeah. See,
No one
we,
applies. He goes, we can't get anybody to come to the meetings.
yeah.
So again, like to your point, you don't have much, but again, if you're going to take everybody off the board and 80% of the people arriving in 2 or 3 years have never been on the board or don't know, it would be helpful, I would think, for them to at least have something.
As
Or
an
to
aside
eliminate
that
the
has,
change.
as an aside that has nothing to do with this, I've been talking about this with Chuck to talk to Valerie, that maybe we should make a change in our bylaws about people with institutional memory who've been on the board have some kind of a position once they can no longer serve as a public member for certain things or whatever. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about now.
Well, no, we
No,
can
why not?
do
We're-
that because
There's no limit.
I think in 2 years, all of us who have been on for many years have to go off.
I remember when I left at my job, I was working on Capitol Hill, and I remember when I left, the staff director said to me, before you go, because of what I did. No, before I go, he goes, look, I want you to sit down. I want you to sit down this last week. You're here at the office. I want you to put together, like, no one knows what you do, kind of what you do here. Like, so-and-so's taking over for you. If you don't want us to call you every day for a month, give us a breakdown. And I know everybody on this call probably had the same thing. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm driving at is
Yeah, I think it's important. All right, Alita.
Thank you. I think you should ask Valerie to talk at the borough board to the community boards about any resolutions that we have, because the meetings, the educational meetings and programs we put on for the de Blasio charter were done with other community boards in
Yeah,
Manhattan.
got them together. I don't think we're going to have the time. I think they're rushing this, and I think it'll be done. We won't have time to do anything like that. That's what
Well, if she, we may not have time to do those programs, but our board meetings next week, if we pass resolutions from tonight, she could raise them at the borough board meeting. I'd also suggest that you look at all of the resolutions that we had the last time.
I
and
have them. I have them.
is relevant to this time, so that we covered a lot of ground last time.
Yeah, I purposely got that to see the format.
Also, one of the reasons that the term limit thing passed last time is because our council member, Ben Kalos, wanted it.
That's
He
right.
pushed it as much as anybody, and we could not dissuade him.
And Brad Lander did too, and they were both on the panel that we had. On
those were good panels. I remember those, Alita. I forgot one of those venues. We had a very good venue. One of them at Hunter somewhere. I remember in the auditorium.
Yes, I'm sorry. They were, but but Ben Kalos, because he was a city council member, was able to campaign, and we were not. So we may want another evaluation from Mark Levine's office about whether we are allowed to speak about them, because it seems inherently wrong that the council and the mayor's office can, and the borough president and the community boards cannot. I'd also suggest something saying that community boards authority cannot be diminished by any proposed legislation, because that's what the city of Yes did, which nobody really knew about. It cut back on city council and community board authority. And I don't know what these proposals will be, but I understand that that was an agenda item too, was how can the mayor consolidate power by removing it from community boards?
The other thing I will just throw out there is, since we are now, we're only at the beginning of April, but the months seem to be going by so quickly now. It'll be May tomorrow, but I hate to say this in a cynical way, but it won't be a big shock if both of these commissions come out with proposals on August 1st.
That's right. When community boards are not here, and opportunity.
When everybody's, either in the Hamptons or the Berkshires or
Well,
somewhere.
we can put that in a resolution also about when decisions can be made, not during the summer months, but we can put that in. A lot of organizations have like, oh, well, their board of directors meeting has to be in May of every year, some kind of parameter so that you can guarantee some attendance. We could do that.
Again, we could do whatever.
It's
I
not just
feel like Gene Wilder, let your imagination run wild. Because they've given us the opportunity. Why, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know
Yeah,
what?
well, let's do
Didn't
it.
you
We've
guys
got
propose,
8 things already.
right?
It's-
They didn't propose anything. Okay, well, guess what? We decided to run wild.
Can I just say one more thing before I mute myself, which is that it shouldn't just be the Charter Commission. A lot of city agencies come out with stuff in August that we have no opportunity to vote on. So maybe we should just ask that no city agency make proposals in August, or if they do, they need to run through September when community boards are back.
Okay.
I see Michelle likes that idea.
I don't know how Judy likes it. Judy's seen the July 31 idea before.
Exactly. So
She's
they're
seen it.
very wily. And in fact, there was something from last summer where they did that in August, last summer or the summer before. So why not ask for all of the agencies to restrain themselves on purpose when they come out
I
with
mean,
this?
would the ideal day be a Friday at 5 on August 1st?
Don't give them any
Isn't that the perfect day? Friday at 5 on August 1st. There you go.
ideas.
Erica,
That's why I think the single most important thing is the community boards having more say and not just being,
Advisory.
poo-pooed, as my grandmother used to say. That's the number one thing. All the other things are great, but if the community boards if they really just don't consider the community boards, which I really feel is the case at this point, then everything else is just moot.
Can you provide some wording for that, Ed?
Yeah.
How,
Yeah, I mean,
how we change advisory into something formal?
Well, I don't know if the city council is going to give up their
their
power
power.
really willingly like that. However, though, Erica, maybe we could put something to the effect of if the city council member for the community district, the affected community district, right? In our case, that would be Keith or Julie. If the affected, whatever the appropriate, I mean, we're not going to start asking some council member out in Queens to adhere to what we say. So, right. So whatever. So for ours, if they were to deviate on a project, right, for not every little thing, but for like the blood center or Lenox Hill or major projects or whatever it may be, just throwing out, they must have some kind of reason. They must give something. I don't know. Maybe we have some kind of language, something that they have to overcome some kind of minimal. I don't know what it would be. I'm searching, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know if they.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
we
that's what
go
you're
for what you're
asking them
saying.
to do.
Yeah,
But
what I'm saying is, I think that would be a non-starter for us to write a resolution that
Well,
says
city
they
council
have.
has that
They-
council deference.
Well, we
which
saw
they
that.
don't do now.
Well, they do, but I think there was only one city council member who I won't say who, but I think we know who didn't get their deference.
Yeah, they
But
didn't like them.
well,
That's why.
anyway, but my point is though, is I think that what we do is we'll maybe we write it, Erica, in such a way so that they have to come up with some kind of reason, something to not go along with us. I don't know if we write it so that they have to adhere to what we say, if that's going, we could do it though.
There hasn't been a single critical thing that I've been involved with the community board on in the last 4+ years where the community board, where the position the community board has taken, the opposite result has ended up happening. And I knew it was going to come out
but
that way,
blood
be
center.
rubber stamped.
Blood center.
You know
Lenox Hill. I mean, those are just two, like, I'm talking about critical things. I mean, I'd love for the select bus service. It's 72nd Street is one of the only places at a subway stop that a select service bus doesn't stop at the subway. Like, you would think that would be the easiest thing to have happen, but they've been working on that for years.
All right, John.
I get it. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and
Yeah.
I understand.
John,
Yes, thank you.
go ahead.
I'm in my third year as a member of the board, and
Yeah.
in this instance, I find myself agreeing with Erica. Soon after I came onto the board, I'd attend meetings, and some proposal would be made by the city or some other agency. And the feeling I came away with was they're coming and they're saying, we know you don't want us to do this, but we're going to do it anyway. Or the opposite. We know you'd like us to do this, and we're not going to do it. And so somehow it seems to me there's a lack of respect on the part of the city agencies to, oh, it's nice you have your opinion, but so what? So.
Yeah, oh, of course.
I mean, I think you hit on something, John, that maybe that's more endemic to body politic at large on that one. But yeah, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I will say this, though, and I've been on the board 12, 13 years now. I totally get it. I've gone down figuratively in flames on 74th Street, Blood Center, you name the project. I get it. I hear you. But I will say this, what was interesting about the Blood Center, different from all the other ones, what I found interesting is that that was the first project I've heard in this community district that was right out of the gate on the borough president debate topic list for New York One for some reason. And I don't know whether, to your point, I get it. It's all preconceived, it's all pre-done, prefabbed, all of it. I get you. I see you nodding your head. I grew up in Washington, D.C. You don't think I know how committee meetings are run? So I understand. And that's, but that said, not to say, I'm not trying to say there's no democracy out there for people who are going to misconstrue that. What I'm saying is that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying, though, is that the community board has at least an ability to raise the public opinion. And that's the one thing that we can do. And I have seen that be effective. That we can do. I understand. I mean, this is what we live in. This is, in some ways we've signed up. We know what it is. I know it's hard to change that. I'll agree, but I don't think we should give up.
No, I'm not suggesting that,
but I do think though, in terms of having a say, Erica, to your point, we try to see if we can chip away, have more of a voice, but see, maybe raise these issues. I'm with you. I mean, look, I get the emails now. I can only imagine the amount of people. I co-chair the Zoning and Development and Housing Committee. What do we have, 500 people on that call? I think you were on that call. A lot of people on this call were on there, right? We had 520 people. I mean, we do have an ability to generate public opinion, I think. Alita remembers, Michelle does, several years ago, we had, 300 people at, what was it, the Chapin School on that project on 79th Street and First Avenue, right? It was packed. We had media there. I don't know. I kind of gone far
I'm
afield.
going to have a lot of people tomorrow night for land use.
Still,
For
yeah.
the hospital.
I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at, Eric, is I'm with you and John. I agree. I guess I'm just searching for. I'm just begging for more ideas. I like your ideas. Throw them out there. I mean, I wouldn't mind if we had 50 resolutions. Okay, I really, I mean that sincerely. 50 little ones. They don't have to be big. Little ones. Anything. Yeah, Michelle.
So, to the point of asking for the community board to have more input or not be advisory, in my initial remarks on that, I had suggested that we actually mention a percentage of the vote, that we actually say, like, let's take, I don't know, take a land use issue. Or take an issue where it has to be 2 votes from city planning, 1, 2, the majority of the council, it has to be the borough president, whatever that vote is, we have to be one of those 5 or 6. They would say, and the support of the community board, so that we're not just saying we're advisory, but we are defining the role that we want within the entities that ordinarily are asked for a vote on that particular issue.
That be a decision maker.
Excuse me?
Be a decision maker.
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I don't know what the word is to define it, because I don't know what you would call it. But you could, for example, if we wanted to say we needed to be 20% of a vote, I don't mean that we should say that, because I don't know what else. What?
I don't see that concept. I don't believe that they vote. It's
It doesn't. That's why I'm not phrasing it right. But there is a case when
Well,
you have like
decision maker. You want to be a community board should be a decision maker in any project going forward.
yeah, yes, exactly. We could leave it at that, or we could say a defined percentage of a decision maker, or I'm not finding the words, but if you get the concept, I'm trying to find a word that works in city government. You know, how do they usually make?
I think it's whoever has the biggest stick. It's going to be the Department of Planning, probably. Isn't that who's going to make the final decision on the hospital? No?
Well, it has to go to the city council afterwards.
Right. They will, right?
Right.
They get the last
Yeah,
word
but
after
we want
city planning.
a chunk of that.
It goes from us to city planning to the borough
City council.
president
Right.
to
To the council.
the city council. But I must say, depending on who our city council members are, and we won't go into that, but the members that we have now and the borough president, they tend to listen to overwhelming attitudes by community boards. For instance, going back many years ago, this when Barbara Chalky, I don't know if
Sure.
Michelle and you
Yeah,
remember her. I don't know, Sharon, if you were
Yeah,
on the board at that time.
Yes, I knew her. Yes.
MSK was building I call it the black and white checkered building on 69th Street to 70th Street. And it was supposed to go along First Avenue. We had 35 hours of board meetings on that. And we came up with a resolution. And I think Granis was the last speaker. And it went down by one vote, the building. Okay. But yet Virginia Fields listened to what our community board was saying, and what she did, she came up with a solution which was very much in keeping with some of the issues that the board was asking for. Instead of the building being on First Avenue, she changed it horizontally. It runs now parallel to 69th Street and 70th Street instead of being on First Avenue, and was a much better layout for the community and worked much better than what they originally planned. So I think that our current council members and officers, when we go to them with something, when the board is overwhelming and has a presentation with good whereases and whatever, I think our elected officials tend to listen to us and do what they can do. That hasn't always been the case, but our current members, I think, do listen.
Well,
because we are only advisory, and I don't know that we'll ever get that changed. We can ask for that, Michelle.
Well, I think
but
we have
I don't
to ask.
think realistically, I don't think that's going to happen with all the community boards throughout the city. I don't think that they're actually going to get any percentage of a vote. All they can do is give a good story, get their council members and elected officials to agree, or their state officials to agree, and try and push for what we're asking for.
I don't think we've been all that successful with that effort.
Well, I don't know. I can think of a lot of efforts where our council members do listen to us.
I guess it depends on who the council member is, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
that's the problem. It's too
right now
iffy.
we have two very good council members. Keith and Julie are very good. And they do listen to us. When you call their office with a problem and you tell them why and how, they listen. They try and come up with solutions.
The big secret to is for them to come up with something that isn't apple pie. In other words, I find they can be very helpful in something like fighting rats, because who's against that? But if you come up with a controversial development project or something that isn't easily, not everybody feels the same way, there's some controversy, I don't see that they take up the mantle as they should. So,
Like
the easy
Franklin.
stuff is the easy stuff, but it's the hard stuff. And it's when you have other influences on you for many other reasons that's tough. And I haven't seen anything triumphant coming out of them, either one of them, frankly. But that could change.
All right. Okay, Erica, and then I think we're going to start putting
She
our
was just
topics.
applauding what Michelle had
good?
to say.
All right, let's
Thank
start
you.
putting our topics together. What do you want from the community board? All right, we have to take a vote, I guess, on term limits because we have two
You
people.
have to take a vote on each one of them.
Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, how many people from the board do we have? We have John and we have
Well, let me
you,
say
me,
this
Judy,
then.
and you, Michelle. So we have, what do we have?
Well,
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of the board.
Let me
One,
make this,
three,
let me
four,
make
five,
this,
six.
let me make this resolution then, and maybe it'll save time.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alita. Yeah.
If,
Didn't I count Alita? I did.
Annalita,
Right.
based
Six.
on
Oh, sorry, I
the
missed it.
list,
Sorry.
based on the list
Yeah,
that Shari has enumerated,
yeah,
which
Oh.
if you would read,
yeah.
my resolution is to put each of them in a separate resolution and present them to each charter commission. But Shari, you have to read the concepts. That's just saving a vote on each of the 6 or 7, whatever we have, that's all.
All right, well, all right. So the first one, the first concept deals with that we shouldn't be advisory. So how do we want to phrase that? Community board should not be merely advisory.
Well, rather than say not be advisory, let's say community
Expand.
boards should
Have a greater
have
voice.
a vote, a meaningful vote. So if it ends up being on a committee, or if it ends up being on a board, or if it ends up being in a development project, we're asking for a meaningful vote with the decision makers.
How do we phrase that?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I was just thinking out loud. I was saying, how do we phrase that in a
Should have.
positive?
A meaningful vote along on any given issue, along with the other decision makers.
As a lawyer, I don't think meaningful is a good term
So
because
give us a better word. That's right. That's fine.
Right, that's the trick, right?
should be
Accountable vote, a significant vote.
Eric,
any vote. We don't have
Kevin, why don't you just unmute everybody? The people who talk a lot, just unmute them. It'll just be quicker. Okay, Erica, do you have wording?
Could I suggest the word standing?
That's
Ooh,
a
I like
good
that
word.
one, John. Ooh, like nice
Way
legal
to
term.
go. Way to
I've
go,
worked in
John.
communications for 30 years, so I think we should phrase it something along the lines of like a percentage, like we get, let's say, however it nets out, like if it's 20%, 20%, like
Well,
The
that's what I
community
had
board
tried
should
to
have
say before, if we think we could do
1/5
that.
of the vote, if that's how
Oh,
many different.
I was thinking
ways
about
of-
that as for the council vote. I was thinking, Erica, that's what was going through my mind. Like,
Yeah, but that's like a 50th.
50th, or I don't know.
So
Yeah,
that doesn't work.
Well, it has to be something concrete because to Alita's point, meaningful doesn't mean anything.
right. No, you're right.
No, I didn't say, that was not my final word. I said an account. I
Right.
said a part of, how did I phrase it? I meant a percentage, a part of the
No, we
vote.
know.
Meaningful,
Right, I know.
meaningful vote in the
Not
decision
meaningful,
making.
okay.
Except that I think
Let's say percentage of the vote and let's let them decide.
Yeah.
except
Okay.
we should limit it to the district in which the community board is located unless it's a citywide issue.
Excellent.
Yeah. Because I know I don't want Staten Island making decisions for us.
Exactly.
They don't
Right,
want
and
us
I'm sure
making
that-
decisions for them, for
Thank you.
sure.
Right.
All right, so what's the second one, Sherry?
That was the term limits.
Yeah.
Do we want to vote on these as they go, or do we want to like, how do we want to do this, Sherry?
I was gonna get them all listed with
Let's
Okay.
the acknowledgement that we were
Okay.
gonna, that each one would be written up as a separate resolution, but for the sake of speed, to do, if
Yeah.
everybody agrees, just do one big vote.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so the second one is term limits on community boards.
To eliminate them.
To do
I
it.
I think the majority of people want, Judy, do you want them eliminated?
I'm sorry, that was the hospital again. What was the first one? I missed it.
The
A greater
first
voice.
Community
with the meaningful, that
percentage.
community board should be more than advisory, basically.
Yeah, increasing our voice, Judy, in some percentage, I think. And Erica,
And
mentioned-
what
Instead of
was-
percentage.
yeah, having a
and what-
percentage.
And the second one?
Is
Term limits for community
term
board.
limits.
Eliminate term
I
limits.
think it's only community board members who can vote, so I'm in favor of eliminating it. Ed
I
is.
think
Judy?
everybody's probably in favor of that.
Everybody.
Yeah, I would be
community
too.
board. All right, so now we have to phrase it.
Eliminate limits for community board members.
Huh?
Just
No,
Eliminate-
that's straightforward.
eliminate term limits for community board members.
And we can add the whereases after, to
You know
make
what?
these
I wouldn't
individual.
add a whole lot of whereases.
No, not a lot, but where
Just
some
get to
of
the-
these need more explanation than other. That one doesn't. That's a
No.
straight up and down.
It's better just to make it simple and to the point.
Yes. What's the
Sure.
third
Okay,
one?
and then the next one I came up with was community, unless we're gonna separate community boards and citizens and citizen oversight should be maintained in the development process.
Oh, that was developing. We didn't speak about
We
that.
can, then those are the only two I have for community boards.
No, but weren't you taking down what we were suggesting?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the planner, the next planner
The
for.
city planner, that we would
right.
like the borough president's office to provide the availability of a city planner to help community boards when they're working on specific zoning and land use issues. That was very helpful when we
Yeah,
had that
and
when
that's very
Scott was in.
simple. That doesn't need any whereases. That's it.
Right.
Even
On-
land use and development, just an urban planner for the
Right.
community board, because there are other things like cannabis shops and parks and all kinds of things that we
Well,
may.
where he was helpful is when we were writing that zoning text amendment,
I'm
that
not,
we
ar-
had land.
I'm not arguing that they're not helpful for land use, but I'm saying why limit it to land use? We
Yeah,
could use
no, we don't have to.
Land use and projects, development projects.
any project, just for we should have, each community board should have an urban planner to,
Urban planner to advise us, okay.
from whom to.
Well, that's a different thing than what I was saying, although I don't object to it, Alita. I was not saying that each community board should have an urban planner, not because I wouldn't want that to happen.
To be available to us.
The likelihood would not be high, but
available.
I'm thinking, like originally it came out of Scott's office, it was out of the borough president's office, and an urban planner was available to us
That's what
almost whenever we needed it. So I don't know.
No, that's what I mean, Michelle, availability.
Oh, okay, because the
Yeah,
other way, big
course,
budget
remember
item that would
When
never
we
happen.
were, when we were trying to get the planner for the 210 height limit, how the
Right.
budget committee eliminated it.
Right.
All right, let me see, I don't.
Other proposal.
And then what were some of the others that we were throwing out there before we get into the development? But in this
Uh,
conversation, we threw out a bunch of others.
Expand number of public members was one.
That's good.
It
Do we have
did,
a
Judy.
limit on public members? What's the
Yeah,
protocol?
Judy had one, I thought that
Yeah,
was very
well,
good.
expanding, I talked to Chuck about that, about changing the bylaws to expand the public members so that people who will no longer be on the board
You could stay on.
wish to continue to
As
give
public.
advice in area that they have expertise.
What's the rule now? What does the bylaws say now?
Two public members
Two
per
members
committee.
per committee.
But
And
it's for every committee.
yes,
But it's
but
not
you
part-
may have maybe a bylaw where there's a third member who was a member ex officio of the board.
Yeah, maybe
Who
something.
has, I mean, I asked Chuck to please talk to Valerie about having a committee meeting and putting that on the agenda to be discussed for
All
all.
right, so you don't want, so
I
that's
know.
not going to be on, it's
So
not
I
gonna
think
be
that's,
in the charter.
Is that in
Yeah,
the
because-
charter now, or it's only in
no, that's
community board?
that's our rule.
All right,
That's
so
our
That's
rule.
our rule, Michelle.
So it's
our
not,
view.
so it's not a charter issue. It's not.
Right, that-
Uh,
Yeah, that's
Uh,
why the thing on the archiving was more of to be driven, but city, so that there's a little more uniformity, even though the knowledge, to Judy's point, won't be the same, but the process will be
So
more
do you,
uniform.
so do you want the archiving in the same as the eliminating the term limits?
No, everything
No.
should be separate.
No, well, I think in terms of the thing is, I don't know if we're getting rid of term limits. I doubt we will. I mean, I'm whatever. But the point is that if we're going to have these things, then I think that's why we need to have the archiving. If we don't have the term limits, there's no reason to add more bureaucracy. I'm not for more bureaucracy. We need less of that. But if we're going to have this term limits, I do believe we should at least have some kind of uniformity.
So
'Cause-
why can't that be in lieu of a limit if term
Sure.
limits are not eliminated, set this up?
Sure, that would be great. That's a great way of putting it. I like that.
Or
That's a very real estate related thing, Sherry. If I remember correctly, right? If this happens, that happens.
yeah, right.
I would love to get something in, which we passed a resolution on it. It's a real pet peeve of mine. And this committee passed a resolution, but I don't know how we can get it into the charter about how ballot initiatives are worded.
Yeah, I
They
didn't know
are-
how to I couldn't figure out where to put it in, so I
In a
didn't.
separate resolution, how could we put that? They are written in such
can-
a biased,
you can do
dictatorial
it-
way.
You can do it in a way that hooks into the requirement of the reading level of there's like government agencies have to adhere to, well, at least right now they do, have to adhere to, like, I think it's 8th grade reading level. It might even be less
Papers.
than that
Right.
right now. So
That's
you could
okay.
you could tie it to that, which is already established.
Okay,
That's okay.
language,
You see, I don't like when a ballot initiatives
I get it.
appears, you
It's like
know,
a math problem.
this is to no, that this will improve. In other words, it's filled
It's
with
writ-
adjectives,
Yeah.
favorable, extolling adjective. No, I want just the facts. I'll decide if it's good or not good.
language should be objective.
Thank you, Jack Webb.
Michelle, you're looking for is bias. It's
Yeah.
written with a
Unbiased.
certain bias.
But the thing
Unbiased.
is, bias is
because-
different for
Yes,
different
but
people.
the
Because
bias is
whoever
not-
writes it, whoever proposed it and writes it, writes the
Yes,
the
but
initiative.
that's
Sorta
why
like-
we have term limits, because most people voting, first place,
Exactly.
don't know about a community board,
exactly
don't know what we do,
right.
and just voted yes on that.
Yes, and
course.
because of how that was
was-
worded.
So
Yeah,
what's
and it was
better,
worded
unfair-
very poorly.
Perhaps you could say neutral in your presentation of,
Well, we have a resolution on this, Sherry. Maybe we can bring that resolution and make it this resolution. This committee has a resolution on the bias of language, because
we?
I remember bringing it up last
I don't-
year,
Okay.
because it's a real pet peeve of mine.
Well, see, maybe you can find it or talk to
Right,
maybe.
well, how about Kevin?
I bet it's on our
Yes.
website. If we have it, it would be on the website for sure.
And it would be, there haven't been that many meetings of this charter commission. So even Kevin, if you had to go back 2 years, you'd be dealing with 6 meetings. If you can find the resolution,
I'll find it. I'll send it to Sherry and Ed.
that's
Okay.
great. That's great.
All right, but do we like unbiased or neutral? Oh, we'll see what the resolution is. Okay, yeah, so those are all the ones.
Factual. How about factual?
I would also still tie it back to reading level as well, because that's an established requirement. And I think even the Board of Election has that as a requirement for government agency. So government agencies have to,
If that's already a requirement, why are we having
but
a
they're not
resolution?
doing it. That's
I see. Okay.
that's it. They're clearly not adhering to it. If you ran that through the machine, those questions would not come back written at an 8th grade level.
Well,
All
maybe
right.
maybe there should be a provision that ballot proposals and other city agency writings that require votes be vetted by some group that will assess the neutrality of the language and the reading level. So it's not just up to a bunch of people who have a not
An agenda.
that it's someone
Why
else.
don't- Well, how about this one then? Why don't you like have a committee of say you pick who it might be, like and off the top of my head, even though 8th grade reading levels doesn't seem to jibe with the local bar association, but a neutral arbiter or someone like that. I see it laughing, Erica, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sorry, I could just it's just off
No,
the
No,
top
I
of my
agree.
head.
I believe
it
they
has to
have
be-
to do that. So someone should check before we send, before the board sends in something and they say, well, duh, we already do it. Here it is, so.
All right, Kevin, see if you can figure out if there's any requirements
But
that.
the point, Sherry, is that that it's not judgmental,
Yeah, no, I
but it's
understand, but
factual. So
we'll see what
No,
the.
they read like a one train leaves the station at X hour and the other train leaves and math wasn't, I went into communications because I'm not good at math.
Right.
So,
All right, so under development,
we
or
didn't talk about that
housing,
yet.
huh?
We
What?
didn't talk
We
about
did.
development yet.
No.
Well, we're going to, and that's the next topics. This is what I have. Let me read them and then we can take them apart. Community board and citizens oversight should be maintained in the development process. 2, the ULIP process should not be amended to provide for more housing. City designated historic districts should be maintained and not decreased to promote more housing. Review time for community board and borough president should not be reduced.
Are you all aware that there's a lawsuit against the city of Yes?
Yes, I heard that. That would be
All
good.
aware of that?
Yeah.
Yes,
All
I-
right, so those are just the things that we came up with. Some I picked from other communities.
Sharon, could you go back? Did you say that we shouldn't have more housing?
Well, no, we said there's been a proposal to reduce historic districts.
No, before that, you said something about housing.
No, it said historic districts should not be decreased to promote more housing. That
promote.
one of
Okay.
the public hearings.
I didn't understand you. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah, one of the public hearings, people suggested, let's get rid of all these historic districts and put in housing. So we said,
That was in the
no.
Bronx.
As it is under the city of Yes, you're allowed to transfer the air rights from buildings in an historic district, even a few blocks over. In other words, it doesn't have to be contiguous. It could be else. I don't think that's such a great idea either, but I don't know if you want to address that.
Gary,
What?
be in the
Right.
same position about historic districts is not de-designating landmarks. And also, I had read that they want construction to be a factor considered in evaluating whether a building should be designated as a landmark. So eliminate consideration of construction, of effects on construction in designation decisions and not designate landmarks. And maybe also require, this is for you, Ed, maybe require affordability under MIH or any other benefit to developers to be permanent, meaning more than 30 years, to be as long as the building is up.
As a criteria
God.
for eliminate
What about the
construction.
de-designation, Alita? What is that you were saying?
There are
they
also
want to,
limits, as there is for reducing the size of historic districts
yeah.
to designate landmarks so that they could put up more housing.
When you, what do
Yeah,
you mean?
but that wording doesn't sound, I
What do
know
you
what
mean?
you mean, but
Is just the concept of I think the term is de-designating or undesignating or removing landmarks designation from building.
Yeah, removing.
yeah, there would be
Well,
no.
I mean, that's always the battle. I mean, that's just a different version of the same battle that I remember seeing, out west when they talk about, swaths of land out there. It's always a,
But you want to say eliminate construction?
It's not eliminate because it's not a factor now, I think, but to
Do not impose?
not
Do not permit construction to determine the eligibility of a site to be designated a landmark.
or
That
if
makes sense?
current rules don't provide for construction, just say maintaining the current rules for designating historic districts and landmarks, but I don't know what those rules are.
well, how does the construction factor play in here? How does that work, Alita, in terms of,
My understanding is, this is just supposition, is that if you want to designate a landmark in a residential community, it means that you cannot build on that site. Or in any community, you cannot build on that site because you can't alter the building. So if they want the impact of the designation on construction to be considered, it would mean that, well, maybe we don't designate it because now you can't put another tall tower here. So it's not something that should be considered in terms of the landmarks are designated if they have cultural, historic, or architectural merit. And now they want to include impact of construction, which cuts against any of those three, because obviously any place you have a landmark, you can't alter it, you can't put up another building. So it's always going to have an impact on
So
construction.
let's say it that way, Alita, that
What-
designating a landmark is cultural, architectural, what you just said,
I think
and
that's
other considerations such as future construction should not be in consideration.
I'd maybe just leave it as whatever, as not altering the standards for designating landmarks or
Okay, yeah, let's say that.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't read a designation report in a while. I don't know that it's not an issue, but it doesn't seem to be if they're talking about adding it.
yeah, and that's the thing. They haven't put anything down. You just hear,
They don't want opposition.
Right.
They want to just get it in ballot proposal and then our options are reduced.
right.
What do you want to do about ULURP?
That we want a designated position with a meritorious vote in the ULURP process.
Well,
Community board
board.
should have
do
voted
you
ULURP.
want more time?
Huh?
And more time.
That's what I was about to ask you. Do you want more time?
Well, we got that last time.
That's
I
enough.
think they don't give more time because so many of those things are just rubber stamped.
Yeah, the Euler process is broken. Maybe we need to just.
No, it's working exactly the way it was built.
It's working the exact way the developers want it to work, which is
Right, exactly. That's how it was built, for them to benefit.
exactly.
So we want a vote in that process.
Boy, to hear them tell it when I was listening to the Bronx, you wouldn't. Wow.
Well,
And-
number
I'm
one,
not
we
disagreeing
wanna
with you.
keep-
I'm just saying, like, boy, when I heard them, they're like, it's like, I'm
And
with you.
I also think that we need to have a relationship with the local unions because, they all came out in support of the New York Blood Center, and then New York Blood Center shifted their campus to Westchester.
Yes, but I
They
don't
didn't
think we should
pass
have
one.
any relationship with them in the sense that whatever is being built, they will have a role. It's not the community's job to guarantee that they have 500, places,
But I think
500
they're
jobs versus
being
250.
misled. They're being misled.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
they're
sad
big
to see.
boys. We don't have to protect them.
Leader, I'm looking at the resolution you passed, and you have several things under you.
We can resubmit it. What does it say?
Okay. Establish a pre-ULIP mechanism to require review of the city's RFPs by communities, community boards, borough presidents, and other relevant shareholders
Good
prior
idea.
to their issuance and prior to the beginning of the formal ULIP process. There's quite a few of them. Require that ULIP process ensure the mitigation of impacts of construction and development, including but not limited to sociological, environmental, and health impacts. Next.
Wait, what does that one mean? I don't get that.
Require that the ULIP ensure the mitigation of impacts. You don't want it to be impacted by sociological, environmental, and health impacts.
I think that's too general. I wouldn't include that. I don't know how you can say that.
Because it's part of seeker. Some of that is part of seeker, but the people who write, Michelle, you've pointed this out. The people who write the EIS are hired by the developer. They never oppose anything but the construction or shadows.
Yeah, it's always no effect, right?
Right, so there are no effects. So this gives more effects. It's okay to just say, I mean, I don't know that you could be more specific than sociological or psychological.
Yeah, but that's the part that bothers me.
Well,
I don't think you can say sociological. If you want to say, I mean, an environmental thing is literally air and water. Once you get into all the other stuff, that gets very muddy for me.
well, maybe that's what we should ask for. Is a city is the EIS to be written by city staffers or some designated city person and not paid for by the developer? Or the developer puts money into a fund that goes to these EIS people, because otherwise we never see any environmental impacts. They never want to risk getting another job. If the city does it, then like the DOB, imagine if the DOB were privatized. That's what Adams tried to do with Turkey. But
that's an NEPA thing also, right?
Okay, so why don't we pull that out and just say that environmental EIS?
So the city agency that would be doing that, if we wanted the city to do it, would really be city planning.
Yeah, but
no, the environmental people.
Well,
that
city planning is made up of a lot of people with different skills.
Yeah, but they're the mayor.
But-
We need someone more.
I mean, I can't think of any other agency
EP?
Well, like a state agency, like environmental protection.
No, wait. You don't want to bring state agencies into city business.
No, I'm saying, but the
State already
city
has
version.
enough control over us, Michelle.
But the city version. I don't know, pull that one out. Maybe that's a little
DEP, I don't know.
problematic. We don't want to get hung up.
like this one, City Planning Commission, that where any community board has disapproved an application, a supermajority of the City Planning Commission be required to approve an application.
Oh, that's good. Who wrote these, Sherry?
You did.
Oh.
They're from your resolution from.
I've read it for a while. I'll be patting myself and everyone else on the task force on our collective backs.
Pat yourself on the back.
Good. All right, I'm going to put that one in. All right. I mean, these are 2 pages long. We said we spent months and months. I remember doing that, but we're not to do that.
Yeah, Billy and I co-chaired it. So you had, and I think he wrote all this stuff. He's a lawyer, so it's very.
All right, good. Give
How about-
us just the topic so that we know what we're approving.
All right, how about review time? Well, this is in the negative. Review time for community board and borough president should not be reduced. Maintain
New time, did you say?
review time.
Review time.
I think the last city charter gave us more time for the summer if they introduced something in the summer. I mean, if ULURP was introduced in the summer, we had a couple of extra weeks, but I think in practice, it just doesn't work out as long as we need it.
Okay,
All right, so do we want this or not?
sure.
Or would maintain that that review time should be maintained. How about that's positive?
Yeah.
All right, that was the last I had.
Maybe you want to put, if anything is introduced in after August 1, that we get an extra 20 days or something, because nobody meets in August.
If introduced
I think they're
Just
already.
the Voting Assistance Commission
after August.
Well,
at
Review.
5:30.
yeah,
And we put something in
Friday
earlier
night.
about no summer
Exactly.
introductions.
That is what
What
they
was
mean.
our earlier one that we said no summer introductions? We said no,
Yeah, well,
we said something earlier.
right, we did.
So can I make a resolution that
Yeah.
we approve each of these as an individual standing resolution? And whereas is to be added where needed or advised.
As separate.
Second,
Michelle, who second? Judy.
Judy,
Okay. I bet you guys thought I took stenography in school.
we did, right? I
I'm doing
used to.
the best I can. All right.
I don't even think they teach that anymore
I-
with the kids and their cell
No,
phone and everything.
wasn't it called Greg stenography or
Greg
something?
or Pittman?
Right.
Persons.
Pittman,
Right.
Pittman, I remember.
Or
God,
Greg.
Wow.
God was showing our age, my
Wow.
God.
Did you see the article of the guy repairing typewriters?
Oh,
He's
there
got
are
the
always
only
articles
store.
about that.
He's
Yeah.
got the
I
only
think there's
store
only
left.
one left in the city.
Right, only
But
one.
And he said this, it's the sound of the typewriters. I have to say I remember taking typing class. There is that cool sound, like or being in a newsroom, right? With the typewriters going.
But you had to press down so hard on those
My-
manuals.
My little finger wasn't strong enough
Right.
over the, you're up on the
Right.
top row.
And then when the
Tom
electrics
Hanks,
came out,
Tom Hanks
it
still
was
only
too
writes on a
sensitive.
typewriter.
he
Really?
what?
Tom Hanks still only writes on a typewriter.
Really? My
Yeah,
time.
it's how I learned QWERTY to this day. It's why I type
I
so
still have
fast.
an electric typewriter. It's tucked way up in storage somewhere, but I still own it.
Wow.
You're not
Right.
the only one.
All right, so we're not putting well, I'm just going to use the standard language. And I think because I'm
Want
having,
to write it up and send it around to the committee?
that's what I was going to do. I'm not going to do each individual resolution. The office can do that. I'm just going to put the body of it, and then the office can do the language, the beginning where, it says Community Board 8 met on
Well, the office will do that, but you're going to have to give them the whereases, if any.
if any. All right. What I will
They
do,
all should be, therefore be it resolved.
Yes, well, that's the
Community Board
resolution.
8, and then
Right.
the sentence, and then the
Right.
next one.
I would
They
say,
should all
Sherry,
start that way.
yeah, I would say, Sherry, just to keep it real simple, and I don't know if anybody objects to this, is something to the effect of whereas, and then fill in the blank, whatever issue it is, has been inadequate for whatever, we as the Community Board 8 proposed the following as a solution to solve that problem, or whatever it is, something just that simple, like,
Yeah, that
Whereas-
whereas could go with every resolution.
yeah.
right, that's my point, is right. Whereas,
How many
the land-
resolutions do we have? How many
half a
are there?
dozen? 5.
No, there's
mean-
more than 5, no?
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, probably at least 5. I don't know.
What I was going to say is, like,
All right,
for the one
whatever.
I had for the archiving one, you could write something like, whereas term limits are going to
Yeah.
have a majority of community boards, whereas a majority of community boards are going to
1,
lose
2,
their
3.
members in the next 2 years. We propose that XYZ, and there's our proposal. We propose that the city
Oh,
charter
yeah.
be amended to have archival or
Before you
whatever.
give
that-
it to the office, Sherry, circulate it to, what are there,
Yeah.
5 of us on this
Yeah, I
call?
will circulate what I put together for all the community board members on the committee.
And Monica?
And
Monica's on.
She a public member?
I don't know of this committee, but she is a public member of other committees.
yeah, but she's not a public,
But it has to be this committee.
has to be this.
Right.
committee.
yeah.
All right.
All right, I will circulate
So
it.
there are 6 of us on right now.
Yeah, there's
Yes,
6.
yes,
but
6.
I will circulate it. Of course, the Jewish holidays are this weekend, so I will work around that and try to get it to you. What's today? Today's Tuesday. I'll try it by the end of the week. And
Okay,
then,
I'm going to be out of town all next week, but I'll look at it as soon as I get it,
I'll try.
wherever I am.
All right, I will try to get it to you as soon as I can. And
Board
it's,
next week?
I'm
huh?
sort of thinking we had about 8 resolutions. I don't know why I'm thinking that.
Yeah, well,
Maybe.
the
I mean, I just said 5 just off the top.
community board has 3. The language is 4. Landmarks 5.
Historic District, 6.
7. So it's about a 7 or 8. Yeah, 7 or 8.
Great.
The
Okay.
committee votes unanimously, then maybe they'll take it away, who knows?
I'm sorry, what unanimously?
If the committee votes unanimously, this
Yes, so let's take a vote. So,
All right,
Okay.
let's take a vote. All in favor?
so write down who's here, Sherry. You have.
I
us
have
all?
them. I have everybody here.
All right.
Yeah,
I already have.
everybody.
Pamela Tucker left, but I have her
Oh,
down.
so everybody not
Member of the public.
voting? I mean, everybody,
Everybody's voting,
Anybody.
right? Yes, we took a vote, right?
1, 2.
Right.
There's 6 of us. I have it down.
Is
6 of
anyone
us.
opposed?
Thank you.
Anybody opposed
Thank you.
to it? All right.
Thank you, Judy.
Unanimous.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so
All the
It was
resolutions
unanimous.
are unanimous.
Take 20 out of petty cash. Thank you. That was
Thank you.
nicely done. Thank you. That was nicely done.
All right,
I
thank
was struggling.
everybody. I'll get this to you as soon as I can.
Okay, happy
Okay.
holiday to everybody.
Yes. Anybody
Yes.
have any
Okay.
old
Yes, so
business?
thank you,
New
everybody.
business? Hold on, Michelle. Anybody have any old business? New business?
Move to
Motion
adjourn.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you.
Thank
All
thank you very much. Thanks.
See
See you
Have
guys.
a
See
Have a
you all
good
at
night,
land
everybody.
use. See you tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Yeah,
Good
good
night.